Tuesday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock, time for Sports for CLE. Hope you're having a great afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Browns with players' day off as they get ready to head to Washington to take on the Commanders at 1-3, a game they really have to have. Let's welcome in Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, Mary Kay Cabot. Mary Kay, when you look at this, biggest takeaways from the first 4 games of the season?
Well, number one, I would have to say offensive line woes. I think that is the biggest problem with this football team so far. And you could see what happened on Sunday when they had even more troubles. When Ethan Posick left the lineup and Nick Harris came in, that really proved to be such a turning point in the game. A number of things happened there, including on that 4th and 3 play at the very end where the pocket just kind of collapsed. And so much of this has to do with offensive line woes this season. I think the absence of David Njoku and the troubles on the line have really helped result in this 1-3 record.
Is there anything else that's concerning to you? When I look at it, there's an awful lot of missed tackles defensively, and I know Jim Schwartz has said that concerns him.
Well, yes, that's obviously a huge problem. And then one of the other things is the fact that Amari Cooper has been inconsistent in his first 4 games of the season. He got off to the slow start, had a nice game against the Giants, and then had that basically drop, the deflected pick in this game, which was such a turning point in the football game. So I don't think that's helped matters at all. I mean, if you take away Deshaun Watson's basically top 2 targets, it's really going to be a long, long, hard road. And then he just hasn't had the protection that he needs. I don't think he's played bad. I thought that was a good game for him in Vegas, except for a couple things here and there. But for the most part, I thought he played really well.
I know this is from one of your Hey Mary Kays. Curious to your answer. How does the Browns start to the season change your expectations? And do you think it changes the Browns at all?
Well, I think it's going to be tough to make the playoffs now. They really have to make quite the turnaround. Deshaun Watson's been here before. He started out 0-3 and then 1-3 with the Houston Texans, but they ripped off a 9-game winning streak and won the AFC South that year, made the playoffs, lost in the wild card round. The Browns are going to need a similar run like that. They're going to have to go on a winning streak like no other if they're going to get this turned around. And I don't think it's going to be easy for them Sunday in Washington by any stretch of the imagination. Well-coached football team, good young quarterback, and I think it's going to be really hard for them to go in there and win under these current conditions.
So this is kind of interesting as well. So teams that are averaging more yards per rushing play than passing play on offense: Jaguars, Patriots, Browns, Titans. And to be honest with you, those are teams you don't want to be mentioned in the same breath with if you're the Browns at this point.
Right, but we need to remember this, and I just keep trying to hammer this point home. New offense, banged up offensive line, no David Njoku, struggling Amari Cooper. It's just, and your quarterback coming off of shoulder surgery and knocking off the rust. It's been a recipe for disaster. But if they can hang in there and hover around 500, get back to 500 and hover around there for a while, maybe they can make a run at the end, because I think the offense is going to look better if everyone's healthy as time goes on.
Yeah, and to your point, there are very few teams that don't have some blemishes in the AFC. We see it. You know, the Ravens finally look like they've gotten it going, but everybody seems to be struggling. The NFL, the first 4 weeks was kind of upside down, minus the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes, I mean, the reason why the Browns cannot give up hope right now is the fact that the Cincinnati Bengals are 1-3 right now, and the Baltimore Ravens are only 2-2. And you have to think that the Steelers are probably going to come back to the pack a little bit, and they're only at 3-1. So the Browns are still not out of it by any stretch of the imagination, but they have to get it together. Now, is there a chance you can make the playoffs with 9 victories? Yes, there is a chance, but you really want 10 to kind of make sure that you're getting in there. So they've got work to do, but all hope is not lost right now.
All right, so we mentioned the offense had plenty of problems, but Deshaun Watson really wasn't one of them. Take a look at the PFF passing grades for Week 4. We had Lamar Jackson 92.2. Watson is second in the NFL at 88.5. Carr 86.6. Baker Mayfield, who is playing very well in Tampa, 85.1. And you see Jaden Daniels, the rookie, who the Browns are going to face, fifth. He certainly does not look like a rookie, but the point of that is the offense has a lot that they need to get going. Deshaun Watson was pretty good.
Yes, and I think that should be the key takeaway. I'm going to be posting a story this afternoon where I'm writing about that fourth down play and just how well Deshaun played against the Vegas Raiders. And I think he played very well. He played very well, and we can debate that 4th and 3. There are so many ways to unpack it and look at it, but he played very well in that game. And the takeaway for Browns fans right now should be that Deshaun Watson is getting right. And if your quarterback is right, it bodes well for your football team. It's very important for him to be right. And now they have to put the pieces around him together, and everyone has to elevate their level of play.
All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason for the first time today.
Hey, everyone. If you look at the players who we are missing due to injury, for the most part, they are core players, the locker room guys, or on-the-field leaders for both sides of the ball. I'm talking about Chubb, who sets a superior example on and off the field, Thornhill and Njoku, who are the emotional leaders, and a veteran presence like Jack Conklin is needed on that O-line. Saw Watson lighten up Dwan Jones, but that's about it. At least some of these leaders are almost back, but will it be too late? Stefanski and his staff need to get this team focused and fast in the meantime. Go Browns!
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Mary Kay, you know how that goes. The heat of the moment. People made a big deal about Deshaun Watson kind of speaking harshly to Dwan Jones. It means a lot. And then you saw him go back over and talk to him on the bench as well.
Yeah, I thought, it's perfectly okay to do that. It's perfectly fine for Deshaun and Jameis Winston to hold Dwan Jones to a high standard. They need him to be playing really, really well right now, and he needs to elevate his level of play, just like everyone else does. When you're losing, everyone needs to look in the mirror and figure out what they need to do. Bill Callahan used to ride Dwan hard and got the best out of him. And now the players are taking it upon themselves to hold him and each other accountable. I see nothing wrong with that.
What do you think the chances are that they get back David Njoku or some of the other injured guys? Do you have a sense of which are more likely at this point, or still too early in the week?
I think they should have David back for this week. He'll be back in practice. They'll see how he feels and see how it goes. But he should be back even on a limited basis for the game. And even 50% of David Njoku is going to really help this football team in the passing game, in yards after catch, in the blocking realm. So they absolutely 100% need David Njoku back there. I think it's really hurt them not to have him.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, they need the pass catching David Njoku. I think the run blocking David Njoku has missed even more because of what's going on with the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, you need him for chipping help and for so many other things. I would like to think that, and I know for a fact, actually, that some of those plays that have been designed for other players on fourth down or in the red zone or in the end zone would be going to David Njoku. He creates tremendous mismatches, and he's going to get you the yards after catch. He's going to go up in the end zone. He's going to catch the ball. And I just think that the record might be different right now. They'd probably have at least one more victory right now and be at 500 if David hadn't missed the last 3 games.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. Chris Sims, former NFL quarterback, gives us his thoughts, what he saw from the Browns in that loss to the Raiders. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Chris Sims, a former NFL quarterback, gives us his thoughts on the Browns after that loss to the Raiders. This from Chris Sims, Unbuttoned on NBC Sports.
The pressure's just on the Browns defense every week. I mean, again, they scored a touchdown in this one.
Yeah.
That was like, oh wait, they might win it. It felt like last year. Like, can their defense win the game for them again? Now again, that's what's different than this year from last year. Is the defense is not making those plays. I mean, they put everybody on notice last year with how they played. So teams are playing the Browns now, and they're like, hey, their offense stinks. Just don't do anything crazy. You might get hit a lot as a quarterback, but don't fumble it. If you feel like the pocket's collapsing, just go down, right? I mean, so teams are playing it close to the vest, but it's the right way. And why is it the right way? Because Cleveland's offense sucks. And Deshaun Watson couldn't be more average. Average. And I don't know if he knows where blitzes are coming, protection, anything. So that's where it's concerning for them going forward.
Mary Kay, I don't know about the offense. I mean, they need to score more than 20 points. I think they're averaging 16.5. I think it's interesting, though, the defense, and I think other offenses are minimizing the mistakes against this defense and saying, okay, make their offense beat them.
Well, that's true. I mean, obviously the offense is going bad right now, but I have to disagree with Chris Sims there. And when you don't cover a team on a regular basis and you don't see what's going on really behind the scenes, and you don't understand exactly what the dynamics are on an offense, it's easy to say the quarterback is average. It's hard to look at it and understand that your top two weapons have not really been there for you, that the protection hasn't been there for you, that you're coming off of a surgery and that you might need some time to knock the rust off, that you have a brand new offense that isn't all on the same page yet. There are so many things going on, and it's just too easy, it's too simple for everyone to point at Deshaun and say he's the problem. Has he been tremendous? No, he hasn't been tremendous yet. But in this past game, as you pointed out, to grade out second only to Lamar Jackson in the NFL in week 4 bodes well for the future. People need to strap in and just hang in there, because if they don't lose too many games and fall too far behind to the point where they can't climb out of this, the fact that he is coming around and starting to play well is going to help them a lot. Now, Amari Cooper has got to get back to his 5-time Pro Bowl level of play. David Njoku has to be amazing. They've got to get more out of Jerry Jeudy. They've got to get way more out of Elijah Moore. So once these things start coming together and Nick Chubb comes back, that should help in the running game. I don't think people are going to be quite as critical of Deshaun.
Yeah, to your point, think about it this way. You haven't had Njoku, Amari Cooper has not played well, and you haven't had Nick Chubb. Those are your top 3 playmakers. And you're not getting much. You're relying on the 4th, 5th, and 6th guys that you want the ball in their hand to make plays. And it's just not happening.
No, and like I said, if you don't really understand the team and you don't understand why this is happening or that is happening, it's just an easy target to go at Deshaun. And I think he's also an easy target for people because people don't like him. A lot of people just don't like what he represents because of the off the field stuff. But I think when you are covering football, you have to try to separate out the football from the other stuff and try as best you can to look at it and evaluate it objectively. I know it's not easy. I understand. I do get that. But I think you have to try. And right now, I don't think Deshaun has been the worst problem on this football team.
So this is from ESPN Power Rankings for Week 4. They have the Browns listed at 27th. Biggest issue on defense, missed tackles. We talked about it briefly. Raiders came into that game averaging 3rd least amount of yards per game, and they ended up with 152 yards rushing. And again, there were missed tackles. A lot of times that's a symptom of guys trying to make plays that just aren't there.
Yeah, that's true. As Myles Garrett pointed out in the postgame, you just have to do your own job. You don't have to hit a home run. You don't have to try to do too much. You just have to do the job that is assigned to you. You have to maybe make sure you have gap integrity, stay in your run fits, and do all those kinds of things. I don't think it helped them that Jordan Hicks left the game. He's been one of their best defensive players. He's their signal caller on defense. He's an amazing middle linebacker, and he was off to a great start. Him leaving the game with an elbow injury, that did not help matters. But they've got to find their tackling desire. Tackling, I think, in some cases, is just a will to want to get it done. And they all have to do a better job of that. They have to dig deep and they have to find it. So on defense, I think a number of guys need to elevate their level of play, and they all need to find their inner tackler.
All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Truth and Reason. I love it. I'm a Browns fan. Name's Wesley. I'm out of the Cincinnati area, but I'm a diehard, been involved for a long time. I just wanted to make a statement that it just seems like whether it's Jerome Ford or whoever is trying to run, it just doesn't seem like it's much of an effort. And in fact, even on the defense, it seems like the effort's not there. It seems like we're playing not to lose rather than playing to win. And so that's just my comment right now. We definitely need some kind of rushing effect that's going to be productive. But until that happens, we'll have to accept what we got. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
The dog pound is barking at that. I would be very careful to say about effort. The line figures into the run game, I think. I don't really question the effort. It just doesn't. They're out of sync and they're out of sorts.
Well, I think you can always bring a little bit more juice. I think you can always bring a little bit more fire, and they need to do that. They've got guys on the team like Jameis Winston who are great motivators. They need some more vocal leaders to step up. Some of the leaders on the Cleveland Browns aren't necessarily natural vocal guys. So they're going to have to find it within themselves to be more motivating to some of these players. And I do think that they could bring a little bit more heat, a little bit more fire. Now, it's hard to tell sometimes because when you're on the road and it's so loud for the other team, it might seem like you don't have the momentum or the energy or the effort. But I do think that they're fighting hard. You see Deshaun fighting like crazy. He got hit hard 11 times after the throw. He keeps getting up and giving great effort. That's setting a good tone. I think when Nick Chubb gets back, I think obviously he's an inspirational leader of the team. I think that will help. But I do think they could probably use a little bit more fire.
So this is rate of pre-snap motion and play action per drop back. And again, the Browns, the only team that is lower in those. So the x-axis is the motion drop back percentage, the y-axis play action percentage. The only team doing less of it than the Browns is the Broncos. It's kind of interesting, but again, Mary Kay, I think some of that, the play action and the pre-snap motion, when you've got second and third string guys and you're just trying to simplify things so you don't get 10 penalties, 12 penalties.
Yes, absolutely. They've got to walk a little bit before they can run. And as the season goes on, I think they'll get a little bit more exotic. As the season goes on, I think they will add in more motions. We've seen them do all kinds of different things in training camp, not so much now that they're in the regular season, but we've seen them try all these kinds of things. They have it all in the playbook, but I think that they're trying to just maybe simplify things a little bit, bring it in, dial it back until they're doing some things well and seeing what they can hone in on. So I think that you will see more of that, but they've got to be able to get it right.
So this is from CBS Sports, ranking the 10 most impactful injuries of 2024. Number 3 on their list is Jedrick Wills, offensive tackle for the Browns. They say you could just as easily swap Wills out for Conklin or Teller or any number of key Browns veterans nursing bumps and bruises. We've talked about this quite a bit. It seems like when the injuries hit this team, it hits position groups, and it's been the offensive line early in this season.
Okay, let's think about this for a second. In this past football game, the Browns had no Jedrick Wills, no Ethan Posick, no Wyatt Teller, and no Jack Conklin. And now they didn't have Jack Conklin for most of last year anyways, and DeWan had to step in there and fill in. But that's not the offensive line that the Browns thought they were going to have in that game. And there were a number of plays where they were really, really hurt by a lack of protection and a bad snap and different things that happened with that offensive line. And it hurt them in the end, even on that final play. The pocket collapsed and Deshaun was forced to his left. He was on the run. It was a bang bang play. It happened too fast. Cooper didn't get open, but it started with a lack of protection there, and that has really hurt them this season.
The other thing it's important to point out when you're talking about offensive line, the continuity. So if you're swapping out guys constantly, that affects it because you need to know how the guy next to you blocks in each instance.
Yes, absolutely. And in addition to that, you have to have that excellent communication between center and quarterback. We saw that Nick Harris snapped the ball at a very crucial point in the game before Deshaun Watson was ready for that football. So you've got to have those guys working in concert together on so many different things, especially when you're blocking for a running quarterback. You have to know how to do that. And that's another thing that Nick Harris isn't really used to right now, blocking for Deshaun Watson on a regular basis. It's hard when you get thrown into the fire like that, like he did. But there are so many things you have to know and do when it comes to a scrambling quarterback.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I can step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports for CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
You know what I think? I don't think you have the stones.
Oh, I've got the stones. I think you're the one that don't have the stones.
Let's settle this once and for all.
Amble up to the 4 new Ohio Lottery scratch-offs with all kinds of stones. Gemstones, diamond, emerald, sapphire, and ruby 10s. $10 each. 10 times multipliers. 2 fast spots for quick draw wins of up to $100 and a $500,000 grand prize. Which one will you get when you order them up? Well, that's just the luck of the draw.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave, Bob from Chillicothe. Man, I think we was messed up before we even started this season. I don't know why Andrew Berry didn't try to go and get some guys for the offensive line. We had all this cap money, restructured contracts. I was sitting there watching games this weekend, and there's other teams that's got 2 and 3 linemen that are out due to injury, and the guys they put in look serviceable. Our guys look horrible, and it's the same guys we've had. They had to know these guys were what they were. Why didn't we go out and try to get something different or get some more free agents? Just my thoughts. Go Browns. Woof, woof.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Mary Kay, I don't think they expected Conklin Wills and DeJuan Jones to be kind of as banged up. Even DeJuan Jones doesn't look quite right. I think the length of time it's taken those guys to come back is not something they anticipated.
No, not at all. I know that they thought Jed Wills was going to be practicing in May during OTAs when DeJuan Jones also returned to practice from his MCL surgery. So they didn't anticipate that. And here they are finding themselves with struggling players at those tackle positions. Hopefully for them, it will be better this week. I think that maybe DeJuan needs a little bit of time to sit down for a minute and let Jack Conklin go in there and see what he can do at right tackle. Jed over on the left. If they get Ethan back, then it's a whole different ball game. So yes, that has been a huge part of the problem.
And keep in mind, when you're as big as DeJuan Jones is, getting back to having, full mobility takes more than a guy that's my size. It just does. It's the physics of the body.
Yes, absolutely. When you take most of the season off and you're not able to do any of your outside things, not even play some pickup basketball or whatever, it can hurt you in your conditioning. And that's another thing. When I asked Jerry Jeudy yesterday about what he can do to pick up his own game this week, he said he needs to work on his conditioning, and he's gotten a lot of criticism for that. But people forget too that he missed most of the preseason and most of training camp, and it has it has hurt him. And he admitted that there were some plays he was supposed to be out there and he couldn't be because of his conditioning. So he's going to work on that this week. I think they all need to pick it up a notch.
All right, this is from CBS Sports. Head coaches entering the hot seat for Week 5. Honorable mention, they say, Kevin Stefanski along with Mike McCarthy, Jonathan Gannon, and Mike McDaniel. I don't agree with that, but okay. Clearly, the Browns need to start winning. This is not what anybody expected, but I can't imagine when they look at what has gone on, as you said. When you understand fully what's going on, I don't think a lot of the fingers are getting pointed at the head coach.
No, and I don't even think that play calling is the issue right now. It's going to be a lot easier to draw it up when Amari Cooper is being Amari, when David Njoku is out there, maybe when Nick Chubb is back, when your tackles are there. It's going to be a lot easier to run your offense and your new schemes the way that you wanted to. Right now, nothing is right.
Yeah, and again, it seems like when things aren't going well, you get a holding penalty on an 80-yard touchdown. You get, the guy snapping the ball. It's kind of like a snowball effect. Everybody's trying to do a little bit too much, and it ends up coming back to bite you.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what this offense is going to look like if they're reasonably healthy in November. Hopefully for them, it won't be too late. Hopefully for Browns fans, it won't be too late, because I think that the lights are going to come on all the way around. And if Deshaun continues to play the way that he did yesterday, they're going to be okay. They have something to build on. They have a quarterback, and that is what you need.
All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Well, guys, 1-3, another 10 scripted play offensive debacle. We score again with the 10 scripted plays and do nothing ever since. Defensively, we give up almost 200 yards to a team that averages 50 yards a game. We don't do anything with the offensive line. At least Deshaun Watson showed a little fire when he yelled at our right tackle for letting the guy run by him and do nothing, more than what our coach showed. And our GM will just go off to the back and hide and do nothing. 1-3 and going nowhere, and this guy running the offense and running the team is nothing. He doesn't know what he's doing.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Mary Kay, that's one of our Rochester contingents. Again, everything is kind of discombobulated. I don't blame Kevin Stefanski. A lot of people seem to.
Well, you want to put the blame somewhere. And right now, the blame can be spread out all over the place because there are concrete reasons why they are 1-3. You can see them, you can pinpoint them, but people want to blame the quarterback. People want to blame the coach. It's not like everyone's healthy and everything is going well and they're just losing games and screwing up. There are a lot of issues on this offensive team, especially right now. And once they get those straightened out, they should be winning some games.
How concerned are you with the running attack? Jerome Ford had a big run in a critical moment, but there were a lot of 0, 1, 2 yard runs that are kind of creating some issues, down and distance wise for the offense.
I think there are a lot of things at play here. I think that they miss Bill Callahan. I think they're trying to do new blocking schemes and protection schemes and whatnot. And I think that that's hurt them in the running game. I think that they could find probably a better division of labor between Jerome Ford and maybe perhaps Dante Foreman. They've got Pierre Strong Jr. out right now with a hamstring injury. So it hasn't been what they hoped. Hopefully for them, Nick Chubb will come back soon, and hopefully they will get their run blocking issues worked out. I think it'll help when they get some of their other guys back.
Relative to Chubb, we've heard he'll likely practice tomorrow. Does it typically take a week or two once you come off the physically unable to perform list?
Yeah, it will. They need to ease him back into practice. He needs to get back into the flow of things. They've got 21 days, and who knows, maybe they'll take all of it. Maybe he won't need all of it. We'll know more as we go along. The key is, and hopefully for him and for the Browns, is that he is able to make it back onto the 53, because if he doesn't make it in that 21 days, then he stays on PUP for the rest of the season and he's done. So they have to hope that he is ready to go within the next 21 days.
All right, Commanders up next. They're playing really well, 3-1. What do the Browns need to fix to have a chance against a team led by a young quarterback who's playing really well?
Well, protection issues, first of all. So they have to do that. And then when they're working against a quarterback like that, they're going to need better play from some of their defenders. I mean, they're just going to need more from that defensive line. They've got to get some pressure from other than Myles Garrett. And, maybe they need to blitz some. I'm not exactly sure what they need to do, but they're going to have to get this young guy off of his mark. And in the back end, they're going to have to cover really well. And they have had some issues there. Martin Emerson isn't off to the best start of his career. And I think he's one player that needs to step it up a little.
You look at defensively, the Commanders, they are a team that gives up some rushing yards. Is this a game where you think Kevin Stefanski tries to get that run game untracked?
Maybe, but it just seems like right now that doesn't seem to be their focus is to be running the ball. If they can stay ahead on the scoreboard, then they can keep the running game viable. And I know that Jerome Ford, when I talked to him in the locker room the other day, he said he needs to break more tackles. He needs to run harder. So he's looking in the mirror and trying to figure out what he can do, as they all should be doing.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. As always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Mary Kay.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Mary Kay Cabot, make sure you read her pages of the Plain Dealer. Check her out online, cleveland.com. Always some of the best Browns coverage in the area without question. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Fred Greetham, straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Longtime Browns beat reporter Tony Grossi with his idea on how to get this offense going for the Browns.
The offense was broke. They hired Dorsey to fix it. It wasn't broke, but you know what? Now it is. So make him fix it. Stefanski's had 4 games to be the play caller in this offense, and nobody could say it's working. Over 200 plays. They have 30 points, not counting those first drives. Those scripted plays, which they practice excessively during the week, they're fabulous. But after that, Stefanski loses the flow of what's supposed to happen. Let Dorsey get Watson into a flow and see if that changes.
With that, let's welcome in Fred Greetham, senior analyst for the Orange and Brown Report. Fred, I guess everything's on the table. I don't know that. Yeah, play calling could be every bit as much as anything else.
It's all play calling until it works or it doesn't work, and it's really, I think, a lot of combinations. I wondered the same thing about, you can't help but notice, even going back last year on the scripted drive to open the game, it seems like they are very efficient. Just even a week ago, the Giants, it was very similar, went right down the field, touchdown, did the same thing against the Raiders. And then it kind of goes into a funk and kind of goes downhill. I don't know why you couldn't just run the same scripted 15 plays, until you're stopped. if you're doing well at it, stay on that script. Don't, because it just does seem like the other team's making adjustments and then they're not making the counter adjustment or whatever it may be. But I just think that, when you have better blocking and more protection, all the way around, I think it's going to be more efficient. I mean, I've talked a lot about being point challenged, not getting 20 points yet. And the most you had was 17, because that Jacksonville game, you had 18, but 2 of them were a safety. I mean, 2 or 3 major mistakes cost them the Raiders game. I mean, I can pin it right on that ball that Watson hit Amari Cooper in the chest, right on the number 2. That would have been a scoring play, or a scoring drive, because it was inside, close to the red zone. And and it was intercepted. The Raiders took it back and they ended up getting a score. And so that was a swing. And obviously the holding penalty was, a 7 yard, seven points. And then the missed extra point that cost you, even as it is, the chance to tie the game and send it into overtime. So you got to figure there's 4 points there, 11. I mean, they really should have scored like 27 points at least in that game. I thought that was really the best game Watson has played this year. He's very efficient. He didn't have help again with drop passes. I think he completed 75% of his passes, and that's counting 2 or 3 drops. So I would take that every week. You add 82 yards and a touchdown to his numbers, they look pretty good. So, again, they just got to quit beating themselves. I really think that was totally beating themselves. And the defense has not been the lockdown defense that most fans were expecting. They gave up the lead 2 weeks in a row. They were ahead 10-0. And yeah, it's early, but still, they let the Raiders score 20 straight points. And they did redeem themselves with a defensive score, and gave the offense a chance to win. But you'd like to see it the other way around. When you get a lead, lock them down. The Raiders were without Devontae Adams on offense. They were averaging 50 yards a game rushing, last in the NFL, and they kind of had their way with the Browns defense.
When you look at the first 4 weeks, what are the big takeaways? When you look at this team, I guess better way to ask that, what do they need to get corrected to get a win or 2 or 5?
Stop beating themselves. I mean, I think the last 2 weeks they beat themselves with penalties, major. Now they cut the penalties way down to 5, but they were 2 or 3 major penalties. I mean, when you take away a touchdown that would win the game, that's kind of a major one. And they had another one, I think Cooper illegal motion that killed a drive. They picked up 10 yards and a first down, but then that put them back 1st and 15. So I think they just got to eliminate the major mistakes, penalties and drop passes. They haven't had a lot of turnovers, but those things are the biggest. I don't think you can really define it with one thing. I mean, it would help if the defense would create more turnovers. I mean, finally got one, and it was actually a touchdown. So you'd like to see more of that. But I think more than anything, I mean, the defense is about, I don't know officially where they're at, the new one. Okay, they're 11th. Last year they ranked them number 1 because of the yards. That's what they rank, is the yards given up. 11's not bad. It's the points per game, and they're giving up 25.5 points a game, which is 25th. You got to give your offense, especially offense challenged, a chance to get down, you know, closer to 20 or below. So I just think on both sides of the ball. But I think if it was one thing, I would say better protection, better blocking on the offensive line, better play all the way around, whether it's guys getting back on the field from injury or just playing better. They've got to get the offensive line, or it doesn't matter if Nick Chubb's back there or who's back there. They're not going to be able to run the ball or pass the ball.
Well, if we look at running backs, and this is a tweet from Mac, with 30-plus attempts, Jerome Ford is 7th in yards per carry. He's averaging 5.2 yards per carry. He's tied for 39th in rush attempts. Watson's 31st. The one thing that I would say about that stat's a little misleading because Ford had the 35-yard run. He had like a 24. If you take away his 4 biggest runs, he's averaging right around 3 yards a carry. And they keep getting themselves behind the sticks when they're trying to run the football.
Yeah, and and you never know when that long run's going to happen. They've been behind, and they're, I think one was on the 4th and 1 or
Yeah.
whatever, where a week ago, and then that was a big play the other day. But yeah, it hasn't been consistent, and so I don't know. I mean, as far as I think Ford can do well. I think he'd be a great change of pace back and be the second back to Nick Chubb. But to count on him, I don't know. I mean, even last year when he was the bell cow, he averaged, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it was 4.0, and Nick Chubb averaged 5.3 in his career. He was averaging 6.1 a carry before he got injured, even though it was only like 5 quarters last year. But still, it's a market difference. Hopefully you get that kind of production when Chubb comes back. But yeah, I mean, they're not running consistently. I mean, again, I think they ended up with 92 yards. It looks pretty good, but Watson had 32. You can't really script that into the rushing, and Ford had 35 on that one play, so that's 68 of your 92, right there.
When you flip sides of the ball and you look at the defense, we've said this offense is probably going to, trying to find its way. The defense is going to need to be dominant. It's been okay, but it hasn't done the things it needs to do for this team to win in the first 4 weeks, really.
Yeah, it's actually the points per game. I mean, if it's 20, the sheet I'm looking at says 25.5 points a game. I mean, that's tough for a struggling offense, to be able to, score that amount of points. If you can get down 20 thereabout, gives your offense a chance to win games. I mean, last year, I think the defense ended up 21.5 a game, and it was 11th or 12th in the league. They've got to get that down. They've got to give the offense a chance until the offense gets on track. But, right now, other than players coming off the injured list to give you a jolt, they made some steps last week on offense. They just didn't get in the end zone. They didn't get the points. And, like I said, you can look at mistakes that directly took off 10, 11 points, for sure, with the holding penalty on the touchdown, the missed extra point, which led to not being able to send it into overtime. You don't go for it on 4th and 3 there at the end. If you're only down by 3, you kick the field goal and go to overtime. So, yeah, it's major mistakes that end up being costly. And so we'll see. I mean, but they've dug themselves, a hole, but they have the division in front of them. They have those 6 games, which are going to be brutal, but you got to find a way to get back on track before you get completely out of it, here early.
Fred Greetham, senior analyst for the Orange and Brown Report. Now going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns with Fred Greetham, senior analyst for the Orange and Brown Report. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
When Andrew Berry went out and got Deshaun Watson, He didn't get a guy that fits the system. He wanted the splash move. A lot of his moves have been splash moves and not guys that fit what Stefanski wants to do. If you're going to hire an offensive coordinator, let him do his job. Either fire Dorsey or give up play calling. Now, I get it. Two-time coach of the year. It's only 4 games, but the Browns look horrible. All the talent in the world on this team, it seems like, but they just can't figure it out. Plagued with injuries. They have a run-centric offensive line that's built to dominate on the run game, but they can't hold a pass block. They need to make major changes. And I put this on Barry and Stefanski, and I'm not going to listen to no excuses of why this, why that. They look horrible. Your thoughts, go Browns.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Fred, it hasn't worked for whatever reason. The last 3 weeks, Deshaun Watson hasn't been the biggest problem. He probably doesn't fit that system. That's probably fair. My biggest criticism to Deshaun Watson last 2 weeks, ball's in his hands in the fourth quarter with a chance to win the game, and they don't win the game. That's what I consider a franchise quarterback. You have the ball. We have a chance to win. Find a way to win it. And he just hasn't.
I agree. I mean, that was my biggest criticism of Baker Mayfield. I mean, when he was here, I remember it just seemed like they couldn't win the game, at the end. And, he has had 2 opportunities and chances. You can make excuses, but the bottom line is, they didn't get it done. And, you look at the bright side is, had 82-yard, he made a play, got called back. That wins the game. The week before, Cedric Tillman drops a 4th down pass right on his breadbasket. So he's been bad on the last play, that 4th and 1. He didn't, whatever he did, he didn't throw it to Akins last week. And then the other day he ran, I don't even know why they had him roll out towards, this sideline. It seemed like that's very awkward to try to turn and throw, all the way around, but it's what you want the guy to do is you want the guy to have the ball in his hands. Nobody wants Patrick Mahomes to have the ball on the final drive trailing, by a couple points. Same way with Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen. That's where you make your money is in those situations. So far, at least the last 2 games, and this wasn't the 1985 Chicago Bear defense they were going against. So, hopefully the efficiency continues, but it ramps up and is able to start, making plays that win games.
All right, so PFF with why your NFL team won or lost game in Week 4 for the Browns. Offense continues to struggle. The offensive line has been a particular sore spot. And again, they keep giving up a bunch of pressures, and Deshaun Watson has taken an absolute beating. The line has to get better. Does getting Jedrick Wills, Jack Conklin back, does that help? I mean, when Wills was out there, he didn't look right.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see, watch everything about it, but I saw a video of a play where he kind of let guys run by him. But we talked to him last week. He said that other than the first play or 2, I think that was what he was referring to, that he felt like I think he used the word like lockdown or shutdown. So I don't know. But yeah, I think the biggest hope is Jack Conklin. You would think that, he gets his feet under him and legs under him, that he's an all-pro in the past. He's got to be able to help out in the running blocking or pass blocking or whatever. But, I think more than anything, David Njoku helps because you probably got your number 1 weapon. I would say now I would put him as the number 1 weapon over Amari Cooper just because Cooper's been inconsistent, but Njoku can help and block. He's become pretty adept at blocking, and so he can block and he can be the safety valve if the rush gets by where Watson can dump it to him. they looked really good in training camp. I thought of all the players on offense, he was the one poised for the biggest year, because when they scrimmaged against the Vikings first team, I think Watson and Njoku hooked up 5, 6 times in the part of practice, and a couple were touchdowns. So I just think that would help a lot too. But it's a combination, blocking up front. I mean, he's got to continue to get rid of the ball quick, know what he's doing with it. And I think he did a better job last week. They only, there's only 3 sacks, but 11 or 12 hurries, better than 17 or 18, but it's got to continually go down. And they just got to get a combination out there that can slow down the opponent.
Fred Greetham, senior analyst for the Orange and Brown Report. Now I'm going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports for CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports for CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I've been a Stefanski hater now for 4 years, and I keep talking about it. I guarantee that if we would put Vrabel in there right now, we would win a few more games than we're going to win, period. He would hold guys accountable. He would quit saying the same thing every week. He wouldn't be calling the plays. He'd let one guy do it. He'd do something because the defense is terrible right now. But this schmuck we got as a coach does nothing. And the general manager does nothing neither. We needed offensive line help, and he's out there trying to get wide receivers. If I was Nick Chubb, I'd tell him, hell with it. I ain't coming back, not with this offensive line. But you people are dreaming. Get rid of the coach, and we'd be okay, period.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Fred, we've seen that picture every year since '99. That's how you end up at 0-16 and 1-15, and how you never can put things together is because you don't let things have any continuity. I get the frustration. I think Vrabel's a really good coach. I don't think there's any way he's the head coach of the Browns, and I don't think they're moving on from Stefanski. So if you're a Browns fan, I think you better get used to this, guys. He'll be here a little bit.
Yeah, this is his 5th year. I don't know what the worst record was. Was it 7 and 9 or 7 and 10? Or,
yeah.
I know that, but yeah, what happens if you fire the coach? We all know the story. You start all over because every coach says, I got to get my own thing in here, and they start from scratch, and then you have a 2 or 3 or 4. Generally, there's exceptions, but I don't think that's the issue. I mean, Stefanski has been kind of the even keel. When a team, is down, he seems to be able to make them competitive and do what's needed. This team is a very talented roster, and they're doing the things that cause them to lose. I like Mike Vrabel a lot, but in another world, maybe, but I just can't see, like you said, starting over. The difference between winning and losing is so close, so small. I mean, I made the comparison. I mean, with Ohio State, I can be a fan because I'm not covering them, and it's almost relaxing because they're going to win. Is it going to be 40-3 or 40-10? But it's with the Browns, every game, whether they should win or should lose, always seems to be close. And it's like that in the NFL. And it comes down to 1, 2, 3 plays. And that's what's happened the last 2 weeks. So, they win them games. Everybody's happy. they lose those games, everyone wants to fire the coach. You got to let it play out. I mean, you're not going to get magic changing on a dime right now. They made some aggressive offensive coaching decisions, brought in 6 new coaches on offense, starting with Ken Dorsey, put in a new offense, and so far it doesn't look very good, and it hasn't went very good. But I don't know if you can change midstream right now. If they do, Kevin Stefanski's going to have to say, look, we're going to go back to simplify what we did in the past, especially Nick Chubb coming back. He's never really played, I don't think, in a shotgun offense. You got him back. Maybe you go back to a more traditional group, but I don't think they're going to. This is the plan they made, and they're going to live or die with it.
All right, this is kind of interesting, too. This is the percentage of drives to reach the red zone or skip the red zone with a touchdown before they reach it. Top team, 58.8% of their drives, the Commanders, who the Browns happen to play Sunday. Tied for second, Saints and Eagles, who the Browns have in a couple of weeks, 47.5. Bengals, 45.7. They're on the schedule coming up. Raiders, 30th. Browns, dead last, 15% of those drives. And that's concerning. If you took away the first drive of the games, it'd be probably in the single-digit percentage.
Well, it is. I mean, you don't have to look at the stats to know the Browns offense. I mean, they're ranked 31st in the NFL, and it's just not good. I mean, when you're scoring 16 points a game, you're not going to win hardly any games in the NFL. And so that's what I've said all along. The defense isn't playing great, but they're playing good enough to be competitive to win. It's the offense that has to score points, and both sides need to pick it up, but definitely the offense. I mean, if you would have scored like just 20, 21 points, I think you would have won a couple other games, and that's not saying much. So it's far from being explosive. I'll say that. And so, yeah, they got their work cut out. This was supposed to be the easy part of the schedule, going back to, Jacksonville. Most people thought they were going to be a playoff team. I think they're 0-4, but that's your only win. But then you had the Giants at home. Supposed to be a winnable game. You lost. Raiders, kind of a rebuilding with a new coach. You lost. The Commanders starting over with a rookie quarterback, but now they're lighting it up. So instead of that being looking like a sure win, now you're going to have a dogfight and have to really, confuse the rookie quarterback on the road in order to get, a win there. And then you got the Eagles on the road. So you definitely don't want to be 1-5 when you come back home.
What, as you look at it, what adds up to a win? What do the Browns need to do to get a win against that rookie quarterback who Commanders are 3-1 with Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, they need to fool him. There's got to be something Jim Schwartz can do against a rookie quarterback and with some of the veterans on the team by pressuring him and make him turn the ball over. He's done well keeping, from making mistakes. And if you can force him into some turnovers, those could be game changing. And then the offense, Browns just have to eliminate those key mistakes. I guess you could say it on both sides. Alex Wright has again, kind of a Greg Newsome where he hits the quarterback in the head, automatic 15-yard penalty. They were off the field on an incomplete pass that allowed the Raiders to keep going. They got a score. Week before, Greg Newsome did the same thing. It took away an interception in the red zone, and the Giants went down and got a score. So they got to eliminate those game-changing penalties or mistakes. But I think it's doable. I think that this is where Jim Schwartz earns his money. You got veteran defense. Find a way to confuse the rookie quarterback and make him do something he doesn't want to do by pressuring him and getting to him and forcing some turnovers.
Yeah, as I'm sitting here thinking of this, when you say penalties on key plays, dropped passes, mistake, they're all signs of bad football teams. You're beating yourself, which in the NFL, a lot of times that's what happens to teams that lose the game.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying is right now they are a bad football team. And if they have the talent and they think that they're a playoff caliber team, you got to eliminate those mistakes and stop beating yourself and start taking it to your opponent. You know, they've started well. They started well against Jacksonville. You think of that game. They should have had that game over by halftime. But that game, the offense kind of got untracked and the defense let Jacksonville get back in the game. And then Giants, same tip. They got ahead, I think, 10-0. Defense let them get back in the game last week. Got ahead 10-0. Defense let them get back in the game. They need to step on the throat and put a game away, you know, and just play. They always say complementary. Yes, get it from all sides where you got the offense, defense, and special teams all putting it together in one game. That leads to a win. I think they could do that this week against Washington. It's on them. I don't really think it's the other team doing anything that they can't handle.
Fred Greetham, Senior Analyst for the Orange and Brown Report, as always. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Fred.
Sure, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Fred Greetham, make sure you check him out. He is the Senior Analyst for the Orange and Brown Report. Always good Browns coverage, insightful stuff. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.